virus. The World Health Organization says contaminated cough syrup sold in several African countries is no longer on the market and presents no immediate public health risk. It follows a recall by Nigeria after testing found a batch of the Benylin pediatric syrup contained unacceptable levels of the toxin diethylene glycol. Kenya, Rwanda, Tanzania, Zimbabwe and South Africa also pulled the product from their shelves. Taiwan's east coast was struck by more than 80 earthquakes Monday night into Tuesday morning. The strongest, a 6.3 magnitude quake, rumbled buildings in the capital Taipei. It also jolted rural Hualien, where at least 14 people died on the 3rd of April from a 7.2 magnitude quake. Ecuador's government has received overwhelming support for a referendum which aims to increase public safety. The security proposals would allow the military to patrol the streets and the imposition of harsher prison sentences. It comes as police arrest a powerful gang leader at the epicenter of a wave of violence sweeping the country.
Rishi Sunak is travelling to Warsaw this morning, where he will meet the Polish Prime Minister and the head of NATO and promise more money to support Ukraine. Britain will provide an additional £500 million to Kyiv on top of the £2.5 billion allocated for this financial year. Ukraine and Poland share a 300-mile border. The former US President Donald Trump is expected back in court in New York later, accused of trying to cover up alleged hush money payments to a porn star before the 2016 election.
Now we end with some entertainment news, where music star Taylor Swift's new album, The Tortured Poets Department, was released on Friday and has already streamed hundreds of millions of times. It has also sparked huge interest from her fans in a certain London pub that she alludes to in her lyrics, "I watch as you walk into some bar called the Black Dog." And take a look. This could be it. This pub in Vauxhall has been mobbed by Swifties going in for a Swiftie. The pub's manager is naturally delighted.
It's been pretty crazy, but amazing. Like, so overwhelmingly positive. Everybody's been so lovely. The Swifties have been amazing. Endless photos, lots of questions about which ex attends frequently. I don't think we can speak too much on it, so I'll leave it a mystery.
And finally, to celebrate what would have been the late Queen Elizabeth II's 100th birthday, a statue was unveiled in the town of Oakham this Sunday. The 7-foot or 2.1 metre bronze sculpture shows the Queen in robes with 3 of her beloved corgis at her feet.
Let's have a look at some of this morning's papers, shall we? And most of them, of course, leading with the Rwanda bill. The Telegraph here reporting that migrants could be detained within days as the Prime Minister sets aside 150 judges and 25 courts to get those flights moving by the summer, it says.
The Metro's front page reflects a press conference held by Rishi Sunak ahead of the votes on the bill, saying that flights will start in July. That is, of course, later than his previous promise of the spring, a delay which he's blamed on Labour.
Front page of The Guardian also has a photograph of BBC presenter Huw Edwards following the announcement yesterday of his resignation on medical advice.
The Metropolitan Police has agreed that an independent police force will review its investigation into the murder of Stephen Lawrence back in 1993. The Met earlier apologised to Stephen's mother, Baroness Doreen Lawrence, for breaking a promise to answer questions after the BBC named a major suspect last June. She's called for the murder inquiry to be reopened. Meanwhile, the head of the Met, Sir Mark Rowley, has defended the actions of the officer who sparked controversy by stopping an anti-Semitism campaigner at a pro-Palestinian march. Gideon Folter was told that his presence as an openly Jewish man was antagonising. Sir Mark has told The Guardian that the sergeant who confronted Mr Folter had acted professionally. The RAC says vehicle breakdowns rose by 9% in the last year because of potholes. The firm says it attended more than 27,000 call-outs caused by poor road surfaces, with problems including damaged shock absorbers, suspension and wheels. Well, the Welsh Transport Secretary will give more details later about the plan to revert speed limits on many roads back to 30 miles an hour, just 7 months after they were changed to 20 miles an hour. Ken Skates is expected to address the Senedd about the controversial scheme. More from our Wales correspondent, Huw Griffith.
7 months after it was unveiled, Wales's default speed limit could be heading into reverse rather than a total U-turn. In September, a third of the roads were changed from 30 to 20 mile an hour zones, with the claim it would save lives and bring people out of their cars. A record petition to the Senedd, signed by almost 500,000 people, called for the policy to be scrapped. Now a new Transport Secretary says he's listening, and some of those roads could revert.
So roads which were made 20 mile an hour zones in September could now flip back to 30. It's an issue which has divided people in Wales ever since the policy was introduced. And this latest turn is no different.
What a waste of time and money. How much money have they spent on doing that?
I'm happy with 20 mile an hour. The government always said it was going to review what was going on, so they're only doing what they said they were going to do.
I can tell you one thing though, for when it came in, I'm not really giving it much of a second thought. It's business as usual, really, as soon as I get behind the wheel, you know.
Anyone who ignores the limit does risk prosecution. It is being enforced. But the Welsh Government says it will work with councils to target changes, setting it in a different direction. Huw Griffith, BBC News.
Here on Breakfast, we have spoken before about the campaign led by a former rugby league player, Matthew Syron, to stop the use of glass in pubs, bars and clubs after 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah, you might remember that Matthew lost his sight after having a glass bottle smashed in his face last year in Leeds. And now he's gained the support of a woman who's been through a similar ordeal.
Now, it was the health scandal that remained in the shadows for decades and has been under official investigation since 2018. Now, a long-awaited report into the use of infected blood in the NHS is due to be published in just under 4 weeks.
Just to remind ourselves of the details, around 30,000 people were infected with HIV and hepatitis during the 1970s and 80s after being given unsafe blood products sourced from the United States.
3,000 of them have since died, but their families and others who survived have never given up the fight for justice.
Hello, good morning from BBC London. I'm Tolu Adeyeye. The parents of a girl killed when a Land Rover crashed through a fence at a school in Wimbledon say they've been told the case is taking so long to resolve due to a lack of forensic collision investigators. Nuri Sajjad was one of 2 pupils who died when the vehicle crashed into a tea party at the study prep school last July. The Met Commissioner, Sir Mark Rowley, has written to the family and apologised for the delay, saying there are very few individuals who have the specialist skills needed.
I don't think it can be acceptable for any parent to hear that the reason your 80-year-old daughter is not here and you don't have answers is because there's a resource issue.
In a statement, the Metropolitan Police have said, "We recognise that the time taken has caused further distress, but it is only right and fair to all involved that we carry out a thorough and extensive investigation." London has the highest number of insecure jobs, such as 0 hours contract work, in the UK. The Living Wage Foundation, which analysed ONS data, found 800,000 jobs in the capital fell into the category, with the health and social care sector one of the worst for insecure work. Now, we know London's nighttime economy has suffered in recent years. The pandemic, followed by the cost of living crisis, has seen costs rise, footfall drop and venues close. Well, one leading music venue in Brixton says even though numbers are back to pre-pandemic levels, takings are still significantly down.
Even when we're busy and full of people, generally people are spending less. They've got less money in their pockets. And I think that's the main thing that we're noticing.